Hey, seventh graders, happy Thursday. I hope you're all doing well and you are ready to tackle this last day of distance learning before your 4-day weekend. Today, we are going to be talking about reading outside the text and building some background knowledge about our eras. Planner reminders, you should read a nonfiction source today. You should also do the journal prompt. You should continue reading your book. And then if you're on the schedule to Flipgrid conference with me, please make sure you're doing that. I am a little bit behind on Flipgrid conferences and responding back to you. So keep an eye out on Flipgrid this weekend. I plan to use my 4-day weekend to respond to all of you. So just be keeping an eye out for that. Random tidbit, a sheep, a duck, and a rooster were the first passengers in a hot air balloon. All right, so today we're talking about reading outside the text to build background knowledge. This is kind of the beginning of bend 2, and this is a quick bend, so this part is going to fly by. We're going to be talking about using some nonfiction sources quite a bit to understand our era better, and then we'll move into bend 3, which means in about a week and a half we'll be done with our unit already. So your learning target for today, readers explore nonfiction texts connected to the historical era of the fiction text to broaden their understanding and perspective. Your success criteria is that you can use nonfiction sources like maps, images, timelines, etc. to increase your background knowledge, and you can explain how this information helps deepen your understanding. Really what I want you to get out of this is that readers of historical fiction layer in nonfiction texts that help to illuminate or help them gain a deeper understanding of the era they're studying. We use every tool at our disposal to get to know the era, so things like maps, timelines, primary sources, images, informational texts, and even documentary clips are great sources. So we're going to take a look at this map for a minute, and we're kind of shifting gears to the Vietnam War like we studied with the things they carried, story, ambush, and patrol. So this map is a map of Vietnam. And so what you'll notice is that it's split into north and south. So Vietnam is split into north and south, and that tells me that there's a civil war. That also leaves me with some questions. So how did the U.S. get involved, and what side did the U.S. support? So then I'm going to take a look at the key. And there are bases marked on the map, and they're all located in South Vietnam. So that tells me that the U.S. supported South Vietnam. Now, one thing I want to keep in mind is that Vietnam is a really small nation, which means if it's divided into North and South, families and villages were likely divided and possibly even fighting against each other. Looking at sources like maps can help us better to understand what's going on in our era that we're studying. So I've been studying some sources from the Vietnam War, right? And this map really helps me to understand like more of what was going on, what the soldiers that I'm reading about, what their role was, and what side they were helping. So our soldiers from patrol and the things they carried, it would be hard to tell who was from the north and who was from the south, so who was an ally and who was an enemy. They were in a foreign land, they didn't know the people, and so it would be really difficult, I think, to tell who they should be fighting against and who they should be fighting for or with. And that, I think, would be really confusing and honestly terrifying. Here's another primary source for you. This is a photograph of American soldiers in the Vietnam War. When we're looking at a photograph like this, we want to study a few things. The first is the setting. So think about the physical look of the setting, the psychological setting in a way. Like, what do you think the soldiers are struggling with here? What are they thinking? And then kind of the mood of the setting. So if we look at this picture, what is the mood? I think it looks a little like sad, and I don't want to say desperate because that sounds like a bad thing, but desperate and like they really don't want to be fighting this war and it's really awful. And then we also want to study the people, so things like their clothing, their body language, their movement. You see the guys kind of helping each other. Looks like they're helping each other walk. There's a guy laying on the ground clearly in pain. There's another one reaching with his hands up to the sky. He kind of looks like he's crying out for help or something. So use the knowledge that you already have and then dive into the setting and the people and what that's telling you about that era. Here's your journal prompt for today. Read one of the nonfiction texts about your era and jot at least 2 things that helped deepen your understanding of your book and the era. Those nonfiction sources are all linked on Google Classroom for you with the mini lesson and everything for today. So just make sure you're choosing, just like we did with short stories, the nonfiction text that best fits your era. If you have questions, of course, let me know. You can send me an email. You can pop onto office hours at 11 with the code WillisELA. I'm always available to help you there. But I miss you all a lot, and I hope you're doing well. Enjoy your 4-day weekend if I don't see you, and we'll see you back on Tuesday.